You know what I've noticed recently? Almost all of my videos have been about hero protagonists. And who says you can only learn from the good guys? We have a vast multitude of villains throughout pop culture that we can do a deep dive on. And if you have any suggestions for your guidance guide, just drop a comment and let me know. But for today, we're going to be focusing our energies on the clown prince of crime himself, the Joker. Often regarded as one of, if not the best comic book villain, he's been a thorn in Batman's side for decades now. Not just by his outlandish schemes and near constant war on the city of Gotham, but also by the many ways he's tried to mentally break Batman through increasingly traumatic means. Like the time when he killed Robin, or when he kidnapped everyone in the Bat family, wrapped their heads in bandages, and then had a brainwashed Alfred serve what they thought was their own faces on a platter. Yeah, the Joker's one sick mother. So you may be wondering, what on earth can we possibly learn from this psychopath? Well, if we look at the Joker's backstory, we could find something. In the many retellings of Mr. J's transformation from Joe Schmo to the reason everyone hates clowns, one version makes reference to one bad day that drove him mad. He claims that anyone could become like him if driven far enough over the edge. But is this true? Can enough trauma truly turn you into a mini Joker? I'm the guidance guy, and that's the mystery we're gonna crack today. When talking about everyone's favorite crazy clown, there's quite a bit of variety in choosing which iteration to go with. Do you go with the comic book version? And if so, which one? The Silver Age goofball or the psychotic nutjob that we're all used to? Or do we go the movie route? Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, or no, not you, Jared. Get out now. Nobody asked for you, nobody wants you. If it weren't for that guy, you would have almost ruined the Joker for cinema forever. Oh, you're damaged, alright. You and everyone else in the DCEU, with some exceptions. Before today's discussion, we're going to focus on the 1988 classic comic, The Killing Joke, a story that gives its readers a rare look into the Joker's past and provides insight into just how the Joker came to be. And for those of you who think the movie is always better, there is an animated adaptation of the story that takes some liberties with the source material but still keeps the spirit of the story intact. In The Killing Joke, the Joker sets a plan in action to completely destroy Batman's close friend, Commissioner Gordon. He captures the police commissioner, has him beaten by his goons, and then is forced to view pictures of his daughter Barbara, who had been shot and paralyzed beforehand. And also, Gordon is possibly drugged during the whole ordeal, only intensifying his horrific experience. So why is the Jester of Genocide doing all this? Believe it or not, he's doing this to prove a point. He wants to show the Commissioner, and to a greater extent Batman, that he's not the outlier of humanity that everyone thinks he is. That in reality, any regular person could become just as deranged as him if they simply just had one bad day. And the Joker believes this so strongly because that's exactly what happened to him. The Killing Joke goes back and forth between the past and the present as it shows us the life of the Joker before he was the Ace of Knaves, who is never given a name in the story but is called Jack in other stories that reference these events. Or at least as close to the real story as we know, since the Joker is a compulsive liar and he himself said that he prefers to have his past be multiple choice. So we don't even know if this is the true story, but we'll take his word for it. And as it turns out, the life of the man who would become Batman's greatest nemesis was oddly boring. He had a job, a wife with a kid on the way, the basic regular guy. He's trying to make it as a stand-up comedian, but just can't seem to get the laughs. Things start to get worse when Jack decides to take a job for some crooks in order to get some extra cash for his family. As it turns out, while Jack's planning this heist with the criminals, he finds out that his wife and unborn child had died in an accident back home. Stricken with grief and guilt, he wants out of the plan, but he's in too deep to just walk away now. Fast forward to the plant where Jack used to work, and he's showing the criminals around where they're confronted by security. The heist quickly falls apart with Jack's accomplices getting offed, and then him having a run-in with the Caped Crusader himself. Scared out of his mind, Jack jumps into a vat of chemicals to get away from Batman and ends up outside the chemical plant. But then discovers that his skin has been bleached, his hair is green, and he has a smile so big and red that it terrifies. And that's when he cracks. His failing stand-up career, the loss of his family, The complete disfiguration of his life and body takes him to a place so dark that he hasn't come back from it since. But the Harley Quinn of hate is stopped by the Dark Knight, of course, and Gordon is able to retain his grasp on reality and insist that Batman take the Joker down by the book, and to not go too far to show him that their way is the best way. So now that we've covered the story, we can answer the main question. Is the Joker's one bad day theory right? Can trauma truly make you go off the rails? For us to test the Joker's mantra that it only takes one bad day, we need to figure out just what flavor of mental instability he's suffering from. And as it turns out, diagnosing fictional characters is a fun little thought experiment that psychologists like to play, with the Joker being one of their main subjects. And with this version of the Joker being the most commonly used iteration of the character in most forms of media, he's often diagnosed with having antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD. In other words, he's a psychopath. The DSM-5, which is the source for defining mental illness, has an extensive criteria that one must qualify in order to be given that label. And Bobo over here checks every single one of them. Egocentric? Check. Manipulative in relationships? Yup. Deceitful, hostile, and lack of concern for other people? Oh yeah, he's got it all. I've put the full criteria in a link in the description, but trust, he's got all the things. He is all the things. So now that we've identified his illness, the next step is discovering when and how ASPD manifests in people. In the 2009 article, Who is at Risk for Antisocial Personality Disorder, a study is conducted to find out just who is more likely to succumb to this illness based on brain structure, environment, and other factors. And what they found was that it's not just one thing that increases the likelihood of ASPD. Factors such as genes, childhood experiences, and even gender all play a role simultaneously. But a common thread that is seen in people with ASPD is that their issues started when they were young. It tends to show up in an ailment called conduct disorder. Going back to the DSM-5, those who suffer from conduct disorder tend to be aggressive to people and animals, lie, steal, and generally break the rules. And these traits do in fact have similarities with full-blown ASPD. But what's unique about conduct disorder is that in the majority of cases, those who display it are either kids or teens. And from the Joker's own admission, he was just a regular guy, with no history of antisocial behavior. So already his life thesis is becoming undone. For most people, if they're going to end up like him, they would be showing signs long before they got the chemical bath. But that trauma though, you may be saying. He still went through all those heartbreaking and disastrous events one after the other. That has to mean something, right? Well, not so fast. Though studies have shown that trauma is more likely to happen to those with mental illness, the only example of trauma causing mental illness is PTSD. And though you could make the case that Jack's multiple traumas could have created a PSD-riddled Joker, take a look at the symptoms. Nightmares, flashbacks, trauma-related thoughts or feelings. That's very much the S in post-traumatic stress disorder. But look at this man. Is there anything about the Joker that implies that he's worried about anything? He's a fearless criminal mastermind. So even though he could have suffered PTSD, it's clear that he doesn't. So there you have it. The Joker's plan to turn Commissioner Gordon would not have worked the way that he intended to, even if the torture did break him. The absolute worst case scenario would have been that Gordon would have suffered some major PTSD as a result of the whole episode, which is far from the callous, manipulative, and lacking of empathy that ASPD demands. But in this story of how far a person can go before they're pushed too far, we see another theme in The Killing Joke: resiliency. It's been said that the Joker and Batman are different sides of the same coin, that they are two different responses to the darkness and chaos that exists in our world. Batman gave purpose to his tragedy by fighting to ensure that no other child would endure the same trauma that he did, while the Joker saw no reason to go on except to see life as a twisted, meaningless joke and to make everyone suffer because of it. And at the core of both of their choices is resiliency. The Joker chose to give up on hope, to surrender any notion that as bad as his life got in very quick succession, that it could get better. He chose to go to such a dark place that he believes that anyone can take the same course he did if life inflicted enough on them. But for Batman, he sees the hope that humanity is capable of. He knows what it's like to hit rock bottom due to no fault of your own. but he also knows how to recover, to make a comeback, to rise up. For the record, the Joker's assumptions that essentially you can choose to lose your mind is not reality. Nobody chooses insanity. It's not a switch that you can turn on and off. But you can choose how you will live your life. Life will try to bring you down sometimes, to test you, to see if you have what it takes to see the end of the ordeal. And sadly, the Joker didn't have that resiliency. He gave up before he gave himself the chance to make that turnaround. He chose that fate. Don't make that same mistake. Rely on your support systems, your friends, your family, and always remember, it doesn't matter how bad one day can be. You have the power to make the next day better. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what other characters and franchises you'd like me to discuss next. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when the next video is ready. Until next time.